Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Liberation Codes. You've got
Hmm.
your two co hosts here with you, and I'm really excited about what we have on the docket today. Of course, our topic of the Secret Space program continues and will continue throughout all the weeks, but we thought this week was or this specific episode, this Friday episode, would be a good chance to all kind of come together and take note and take stock of what's kind of happening in the weather around us, what's happening on those crazy, we shouldn't be watching the news or mainstream news because it's just toxic. It's like eating potato chips. But, we can't help but note what's happening in our collective reality. So we're just going to take a little stock of shit that's happening and digest it and see, like, are we making headway with cosmic liberation? Are we losing ground? The answer may surprise you. All right. And with me today, as always, is the reason why you're all tuning in, because it ain't for my squeaky voice. It is for our inimitable, our legendary, our soul brother from another star system, Mario Mijares.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? Yeah, definitely. The whole conversations of SSP and the journey and unraveling my connections with it. That's going to be a continuous thing that we'll, touch on here and there because it's a lot to unpack. And it's pretty crazy and pretty intense. But right now we're going through eclipse season. A few weeks ago we had the Pisces new moon, and that was the beginning of us collectively as a planet moving through the eclipse cycle. And the first eclipse is going to be this Monday, March 25th. It's going to be a full moon penumbral lunar eclipse. And then 2 weeks after that, on April 8th, the much anticipated, infamous April 8th total solar eclipse, Great American Eclipse. I'm sure all of you have heard a number of different things about what this eclipse means. And yeah, there's a lot of other strange things going on in the world that I haven't been paying much attention to that Alex has. So we both have different num nums that we've been chewing on in our own little world. And this is what Alex and I have been doing our entire friendship is like, oh my God, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And we just talk things over and just have fun while we're doing it. And one of the things that Alex has been paying attention to that I have no awareness of is what's her name? Kate Hudgetson or
Oh,
the
Kate Middleton?
Kate Middleton?
Yeah, let me pull that. Okay, so I mean, I'm not going to beat a dead horse in the ground. Everyone's kind of heard of this, but I
Not
did
me.
get.
I don't know what we're talking
Oh,
about.
you. He's like, I moved to North Carolina. I'm homesteading. I'm farming. Fuck all this.
Yeah, I just
But
fed my chickens and grabbed my eggs this morning, like right before
you
getting on.
did. Oh,
Hmm.
screw your life. Screw your perfect life. Oh my god, I'm jealous. We have a tone with each other. Um, and bringing up, like, Kate isn't the only one, but there does seem to be like a running for the hills occurring with some of our most prominent members of the species that are often trotted out in front of us. We kind of understand that. You have us normal peons, right? We're the livestock, according to the cabal. Like, we
Hmm.
just walk around in a debt enslavement matrix. Then above that you have essentially our handlers. Maybe above that or mixed in with that, you have these like prominent people trotted out, and they're basically prostitutes for the banking cabal and the kabbalistic elites. Like, anyone you see, like, if they're listed in the Forbes richest list, they're more of a peon. They're not the actual richest people. The Rothschilds are not listed in the Forbes list of richest people. You get what I mean?
Hmm.
So we have this like fancy, glamorous wife to Prince William, the son of King Charles II. And you may remember, like 10 years ago, give or take, yeah, about 10 years ago, there was like this pompous royal wedding. Everybody, all the people I knew had to like get up at some crazy hour just to watch the stupid, golden carriage and Kate kind of getting on and stuff like that. And she's just kind of been, in the press and present and, at many royal functions and waving her little hand and popping out kids, and just being UK royalty married into the lizard family, right? So
Mm.
in the past few weeks, it's just become glaringly apparent that she fucking disappeared. Like back in late December, according to the timeline, back in late December, they're like, oh, she might need to go in for abdominal surgery. And you're like, okay. And then best of luck. And then weeks go by. And then what's curious, and I'm using Kate as an example, I think there's a few others, but what's curious is that her handlers, her staff, Kensington Palace, is like, oh, she's doing great. And we're all like, okay, where is she? And they're like, don't worry about it. And we're like, okay. And I have this picture up here to the left of her, and this got torn down by Reddit and X in about 10 minutes. But Kensington Palace posts like Happy Mother's Day, because it was Mother's Day in the UK, not the US. And here's Kate Middleton, and oh, and isn't she great? And people are like, oh, it looks like fall or September behind her. It doesn't look like March. And then they noticed, I can't zoom in with this. Damn. Can I? I can maximize that. There's notes of Photoshop fuckery. Like her arm is a little like the girl's the daughter's red little arm doesn't quite line up. Kate's like hands are blurred. There's basically these like little indices. It's like she's not. This is maybe an AI generated photo
Yeah.
with real
Yeah.
faces placed on it, and people got into the metadata and were like, this has been opened up in Photoshop multiple times. They didn't even clean the metadata because you're all photos have a trail for the
Mm.
most part. There's places where you can put them. So anyway, I'm spending way too much. Of course, like our conspiracy on Reddit is like all over Kate Middleton, but it kind of encapsulates what's going on, which is like, where are our prominent people? Are they running for the hills? Was she just like ritually sacrificed? And there's like this weird like cover for the thing. Even if she were like undergoing something hard, like breast cancer or something like that, I think people would be like, oh, we're endeared to you. We're here for you. And they would like
Mm.
market it as a story, not to be craven. But
Mhm.
we just have like missing people. And it's just curious, right? King Charles II all of a sudden got cancer. People building bunkers everywhere. Oh my God, this one. I'll throw this one out.
Mhm.
I knew shit was getting weird when even RuPaul is building a bunker. This is all over gay Reddit, but everybody's just like, "Are you like?" We hear Mark Zuckerberg is creating a bunker, all this stuff, and I think this is sowing a tiny bit of. I think in the awakened community, it's sowing a tiny bit of panic, where it's
Yep.
just like, "Do I need a bunker? Are we gonna die in a tidal wave in Atlantis? What do we do?"
Mhm.
Don't we
Mhm.
all have that voice? but it's just creating these like crazy ass moments. So anyway, just to catch you up, Mario, like that's what's happening in the pop culture sphere.
Yeah. I didn't dive, into what's it, Kate Middleton,
Mhm.
too much, but on my feed, I did see Magenta Pixie upload and speak onto it. And if you guys don't know who Magenta Pixie is, she is a channeler that lives in England, and she is oh, what up, aloha, Jace. She is a phenomenal channeler, and she channels information from what she calls the white winged collective consciousness of nine. So she channels this collective consciousness, and I saw she posted a video and then a picture of that image about asking the nine if this is real, and the nine came through saying that it is a doctored photo, that it's AI generated, and um, in recent now in Magenta Pixie's videos, when she's talking about things happening in the world, she tells it in a fairy tale form, so it doesn't get taken down by YouTube. And I listened to that video, and she was saying that that basically what she's saying is that she went along with a lot of things, not really aware of all of the conspiracies about the royal family and just went along with the traditions and
The
whatnot, but
rituals.
then the rituals, but then eventually started noticing that things were getting weirder and weirder and weirder. And obviously over the last 4 or 5 years, things have gotten really fucking weird for the whole world with the you know the pandemic and all that sort of stuff. So who knows? Maybe they chopped her up or something and fed her to the gators. But I mean that's I don't I mean that's the first place my mind goes to is they chopped her up and fed her to the gators, and now they're putting her children, they're filling her children up with black goo. But that's just that's just bullshit coming out of my mouth. So don't take that as literal fact or theory or confirmation.
Well, I think we're allowed to speculate, because there is a certain amount of, if you're going to trot someone out in a public way and be like, this is a public puppet, and you all, this is how I control you, is like, don't you want to be her and dress like her and blah blah blah, and then you yank her from view and probably do, I think probably, I get the vibe that you have where it's like, we need to fix this problem, and then you're like, oh wait, everyone's looking, and you did this thing where everyone's endeared to her, like she presents well, she has or had a good heart, seemingly married
Mhm.
into the lizard family.
Mhm.
But yeah, and take note with the fact that persons like her, maybe came into the royal sphere back when the veneer wasn't wiping off. You know what I mean? Like we,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're so rich, and they're
Mhm.
so powerful, and we honor them, and it's part of culture.
Mhm.
So then you make excuse for all the rituals, and
Mhm.
then she probably was like, what pomp and circumstance and what history? And she probably watched in real time, like, you had pictures of the Queen Elizabeth has like a cute little cabin out in the woods somewhere. It's very specific. It's very like isolated. It's very like surrounded by all this land. And then you have photos of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein snapping photos at that
Mm.
same cabin, and then they've
Mm.
snapped photos on Buckingham Palace's throne and stuff like that. So were I Kate Middleton, I feel like I'd be like, what the fuck did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Well, and I feel that a lot just based on my like Dorothy past life, where I just like walked into a honeypot,
Right.
like
Right. Yeah.
fell
Yeah.
in
That
tits
makes a lot of sense.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
so I bear sympathy for whatever might be
Yeah.
going on here. But I mean, I feel like the wheels are coming off the bus with the cabal. Like the cabal is just like, oh, it's coming unglued, and we're all like, oh my, like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
like, are we in charge? Have
Right.
we been in charge the whole time, but we
Right.
were under the illusion we weren't, and we were too
Right.
tired in the debt enslavement matrix to do anything about it?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, another thing that Magenta Pixie was saying in that video, she was also bringing up Princess Diana. And so like apparently Princess Diana is still alive, and that when before she supposedly died, she knew that they were coming to hit her. And this is just what I've heard in the conspiracy circles, is that the only person she felt she could trust to take care of her was Donald Trump at that time. And so supposedly, Trump has been like taking care of Princess Diana and John F. Kennedy Jr. And interesting things like that. I don't know how much of that is actually true, but it really brings um, interesting curiosity of wondering, like, like we really are in this war right now. And so it's like, if we're going to believe that the royal family are lizard people and the queen, was like the queen lizard woman, then why is it so crazy to wonder and believe that Princess Diana is still alive? And so so is JFK Jr. And that they've been being protected under Trump's through Trump somehow, some way. Like, how is that way too far fetched and not believable?
I mean, given everything that's going on, I would probably, like, if that showed up on my news feed, And I follow independent media more, and then they comment on mainstream media. But if I just saw that pull up on my newsfeed, I'd be like, yeah, I get okay. like
Right, right.
given what drops and given all
Especially
this stuff.
when we consider other factual contexts, like the person that was ahead of the group that confiscated all of Nikola Tesla's technology and patents was Donald Trump's uncle,
Fred
okay?
Trump, yeah, that
Right?
was
So, you know,
what.
when I hear that, then this is what I imagine. So I hear that, and then I imagine little toddler Trump, you know, sitting on Uncle's lap, you know, and then Uncle being like, "Man, I saw the future," you know, and then like that within his family, very private within his family, began this whole, you know, insight and understanding of like what's going on, and maybe that created something in that moment, very private, very secret. Don't know if that's true, but like when I hear these informations, that's where like I don't want to say remote view, but that's where my visual imagination instantly drops into. And it's like very clear, like, you know, family time in the house, no one's there, there's no bugs in the room or anything like that. And uncle is like, listen, you guys, I just confiscated, you know, Nikola Tesla's stuff. Like he's onto some real big things. And in the process, like, you know, I got glimpses of this and that and this and that. And like, you know, I think we're really dealing with something, you know, really crazy going on in the world. I don't know, you know, just speculating. So we got that, and then the whole Baron Trump book that was written
Oh,
how many
100
years
plus
ago?
years ago,
100
yeah.
plus years ago. So, and if Nikola Tesla was already like on the dial of creating patents that can technology where we can peer into the future, like with all these bits of information, how is it not reasonable to, you know, to sort of take in and consider that all these other conspiracies can be true, like Princess Diana being alive, like JFK being alive, JFK Jr. being alive, and supposedly, you know, when Trump was running for president back in 2016, when he was saying "drain the swamp," that was code of draining the swamp that JFK's Jr. plane crashed into. So
Oh,
if they
didn't know that.
drained that swamp, they would see that there's no bodies. So,
I would be
but I,
heartened if he
hmm?
spoke in code like that. Like if he were more intelligent than he put off, and like his
Well,
sort
he's a
of like,
Gemini.
oh, okay, oh, he is
Trump's
a
a Gemini,
Gemini. Oh, that's
so he knows he's a Gemini with a Leo rising, born during a lunar eclipse, a total lunar eclipse. So and plus he's like one of the richest dudes there is. So he doesn't have to he doesn't deal with certain like mundane psychological insecurities that the average person does because he already has everything. He knows who he is. He knows he's got a big dick. He knows everybody wishes that they had what he had, you know? So he doesn't have to extend himself to seek validation and approval. And also, like everything else is just noise because he's after the dragon, you know? And that's the evil. So of course speak in code and of course seem a certain way because everyone's so fucking retarded, no one's going to even understand it, you know what I mean, unless people who are on the journey of awakening can see. And you know, with all that being said, you know, we're not in this channel, we're not political, we're not saying, you know, pro Trump or pro anything, we're just speculating on all these things going on right now.
yeah. Because we like, there's no way the wheels are coming off the bus, and there's no way you know me, like we go back like lifelong registered Democrat. I almost feel like gay dudes like we have to kind of vote along those lines or have been expected to vote
Right.
along those lines. And we've been shown, and I even noticed like 10 or 12 plus years ago, there'd be something called the Human Rights Campaign. And this is something that people complain about. The Corporate Equality Index is something that they push. And they have companies, the biggest companies in the world, they strive to get 100% on the Corporate Equality Index. And my take on them, I'm steering around, but I'm going to come back to that Trump spot. I used to complain about them because we would do these fucking fundraisers for them, and they get these prominent speakers, and there was this weird, just sort of like they liked hobnobbing in DC, and we're on the ground when I was in Utah and when I was in Washington State, and just doing the work, doing the legwork, phone banking, trying to steer like voter sentiment to be like, well, let's get equality. I don't care about my neighbors down the street. Like, let Tom and Harry like get married. I don't care. And we're trying to do that, and then the HRC people were like hobnobbing and just kind of aloof and detached, and there was just this like weird disconnect. So I'm like, oh, this is funny. Like, I'm expected to serve these institutions and vote this specific way, and I'm kind of being funneled in this way, and people are coming to find out. I have independent news media such as Savvy Sabs, Glenn Greenwald, who else, a few other people, Brianna Joy Gray, I think, from The Rising. No, she doesn't quite know that Bernie, like, basically people are like, Bernie seems to have been a plant. And when Bernie Sanders kind of came on the scene and expressed these like, hey, I'm left of left, I'm expressing these really progressive things. And we're all like, yeah, let's do it. Woo! And then it was just sort of like, psych, you're getting Clinton. Eat a dick or whatever. And,
I mean, it feels that way now. In hindsight, it feels that way because, like, like everyone felt the burn. Like, I felt the burn. I was never into politics or anything like that until 2016, because everything was ramping up, and 2016 was a 9-year, and next year we're moving into a 9-year, and there was just a lot of shit going on. And then, like, back then I was like so anti-Trump because the only things that I was receiving in the political world were from like mainstream media or social media, which was all doctored, and everything that I was receiving was like tailored and spun around to that got me to believe that Trump hates Mexicans or Latinos, and he wants to deport everybody and all this stuff. And I didn't dive any deeper than any of that. And so, that's an emotional trigger for someone who comes from an immigrated father. That's a huge emotional trigger, and someone that has family here in America that's undocumented, and like dozens and dozens of friends that I grew up with that are undocumented, So for that whole time, I hated him. And then when Bernie was running, I was like, I feel the burn. Yes, this is everything I stand for. I want, I'm gonna, it's time. I'm 26 now, so it's time to like, start becoming more politically engaged. And then when he became a president, when Trump won the presidency, I was so like moved by that, feeling threatened that my family and friends, people that I've known for years and years, were going to get deported, that I even started a career as a community organizer in the nonprofit industry. And Alex was witness to the very beginning of that. He was witness to my very first apprenticeship into the nonprofit world. And then from there, it just grew and grew and grew to the point where like I gained recognition as a community organizer, and my passion and my ability to connect with people. That I got a really well-paying salary job for a nonprofit that took a long time to create for myself. But getting closer towards like around 2018, 2019, a few years into Trump's presidency, I started to realize and I know we're like way off track of like all the things we wanted to talk about, but
we go where we want to go. Don't worry.
We're flowing.
Yeah.
But I started to realize that everything that I was speaking about in terms of like the Trump administration, because in the nonprofit world, because also at that time, the nonprofit world also started to skyrocket because they were able to use the Trump administration wants to do this, the Trump administration wants to do that. And because everybody got so turned on by feeling the burn of Bernie Sanders, all that energy, all that momentum had to go somewhere. And so it got funneled into the nonprofit world for political and climate missions. Mm-hmm. So the nonprofit world expanded a lot after 2016 when Trump got inaugurated, because all that youthful energy that got turned on funneled into there. And so their hearts, their emotions, everything was triggered to do something. And that's what happened with me. And a few years down the line, I started to realize that everything that was coming out of my mouth in terms of like the political world, the climate world, that was regurgitated information that someone else gave me. And I came to this point, it was like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Like this, like what I'm talking about is scripted narrative, like literally scripted narrative. And that's
And
how it
trickled
is.
down.
And trickle down. And like, so when you're in the nonprofit world, whether as a volunteer or a community organizer or a leader in some way, within the higher ups of these nonprofits, you literally get scripted information on how to communicate the narrative. It's for a number of reasons. One, so that way you don't fumble with your words and you can stick to the point and give the clear message. But two, also so you stay within that framework of what they want you to speak. And then, you say it over and over and over in enough meetings with a lot of people who just want to do something right. That becomes a new doctrine within the little collective. And then there's 100 people that receive that narrative, and it expands to another 100 people. And then, and there are pockets of this happening in cities all over the country, even all over the world. So when I came to that realization, like, I'm not even authentic anymore. Like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I started to pull back, and I was like, you know what? I can't get behind the political stuff anymore. But what I can get behind is protecting the river, because pollution is bad. I'm not even sure where I stand with climate change, but pollution is bad. So I was like, polluting the river with the salmon and the orcas and all the whole ecosystem, that's where I can get behind. And once I started making that, like while I was making that shift, I also started to experience dreams about with Trump. Um,
Oh
so,
yeah.
so I started having dreams about him, which really began opening me up to start questioning. So one dream that I had with Trump, I was at a circus. I was at like a circus carnival, and there was Obama, President Bush, and somebody else that I don't recognize, maybe Clinton or something. But I remember Obama and Bush. There was somebody else, and they were all three talking, and I was there standing with them, listening to their conversation. And then Trump comes from behind me and taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around and it's Trump, and he's like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember the dream. This was years ago. So basically in that dream, Trump's like, those people aren't who you think they are. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're the presidents, they're good people. And they're like, no, look closer. And I start looking again, and I'm looking closer, and they were not human. They had a negative energy. And then they started to see that I was able to see them, and started to like come at me with like negative psychic energy. And then Trump like gave me some more pieces of information that I don't remember, but it was very like um impactful at that time. And so I wake up and I'm like, what the hell? I'm so confused. Like, I'm supposed to hate this guy. So it was like dreams like that started happening, where I also started to realize, wait a minute, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing here. And and then I had another dream with Trump where a lot of different dreams, and this is the last one I'll say, and I'll stop talking for a minute. So in this dream, I'm like in a high rise, like penthouse, someone's apartment, and there were all my friends there at that time, at that period, my close friends that I had at that time. But there was also a lot of people that I didn't know. And I'm really lucid in this dream. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about the people that I don't know. And I started to pay attention because it was kind of like a party. And all the people that I don't know, I started noticing that they would every once in a while, like, whisper something into someone's ear, into one of my friends' ears. And so, like, and then I was like, oh, what's going on? And then slowly I started to see that all my friends were starting to see me in a different light. And I was like, okay, something is up. I was like, I don't know who these people are, but they're doing something, and they're starting to turn these people against me some way. So then I go to the bathroom and I start washing my face with water, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, what's going on? And then two of my homegirls come in the bathroom, and they start flirting with me. One standing here, one standing here, and they're like, "Oh yeah, tell us what you know. Tell us what you know. What's happening in the
Indeed.
stars?" You know, and they kept asking me like, "What do you see in the stars? What's happening? Tell us what you know. Tell us what you know." And they were hypnotizing me while we were staring into the mirror in the bathroom in the dream, right? And then
Mhm.
one of them starts rubbing my crotch, you know, and I see myself in the dream falling into a trance, but then I was able to snap out of it. I was able to snap out of it in the dream and go, "Oh, get away from me! You guys aren't my friends. You're fucking agents." And then I run out of the fucking the whole apartment. I take the fire escape down the stairs into an alleyway, and as I'm there, I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then all of a sudden, UFOs start coming over the city and start fucking blasting buildings and killing people and like like lasers. And I'm like, what the hell? This isn't how it's supposed to happen. First contact is not supposed to happen like this. What's going on? And then I get a fucking text message from Donald Trump. I get a text message and it says Donald Trump. And then the message says, the message says something like false flag, stand down, find safety, you'll know when to come back out, you know? And so that was another dream that I had. And then when I woke up from that dream, I'm like, that's a weird dream. And that morning, I was like, I'm going to watch a movie on Netflix. And I go to fucking Netflix, and there's a movie, I don't remember what it's called. It came out maybe 2017, 2018, where this guy, he's like having weird dreams and whatnot. And turns out in the movie, I think it's called like Extinction Event or something like that. Turns out in the movie, what happened was AI got so advanced that they kicked all the humans off the planet, and the technology was so good that AI was able to make robotic bodies that were just like humans. So the whole planet was inhabited by robots with sentience, AI sentience, thinking that they were human, forgetting that they took over the planet. And then in the movie, an invasion is happening, and they think it's an alien invasion, but it's really humans coming to take back their planet. And there's a scene in the movie where he's in his penthouse apartment and there's a party going on, and he's looking around and he's like, something's not right. And so that was exactly how my dream started. And so, anyways,
And your
weird,
dream was
weird.
before watching that movie.
Way it was my I had the dream right before I woke up and then decided to watch that movie. And as I'm watching that movie, I'm like, holy shit, this was just like how I had that fucking, just like how I had that dream, you know? So,
Fucking
anyways,
chills. No,
yeah,
there's so much. I mean, so much to unpack there, because also know that dreams are a communication vehicle. You're communicating with yourself, your guides and your spirit tribe, and everything is communicating to you. You're formulating what you're going to do in the physical, kind of the next day, the next time period of being awake. And according to this esoteric channeled material referred to as the Seth material, which some lady channeled an entity named Seth many, many years ago, this waking state is also a form of dream state. Like, it's just more permanent. Like, if I cut off my finger, it's gone, right? Like, it doesn't, apparently, I don't expect it to grow back or something.
mhm.
So that is kind of wild that you dream that. And it makes me wonder, like, we live in a robust multiverse of many timelines. So I know that Project Bluebeam comes up a lot, in terms of there's like an unmarked white van just like right in front.
Oh, really? Of course, of course.
Hey, I should just go press like, I mean, hairy chest on the window and just be like, hi, and just have him just like right off.
Do
I'm,
it.
I'm just this just disclosure is just gonna make me weirder and weirder as time goes on. But sorry. Now, well, shit. Now I lost my train of thought.
Oh, that's all right. That's all
Oh
right.
well, we're going all over the place. But I think
Yeah,
I think what we've expanded the conversation to kind of talk about, like, next steps. How's liberation going? We are taking into account all these cues, these people trotted out in front of us, and like, do you go with option A? Do you go with option B? I do think that advice you got from Trump in your dream is really prescient, where you're almost like kind of just like hunker down, not in terms of like do nothing, be passive, be
right,
like a little bitch bottom, but
right.
you just sort of like, well, what can you control? Like your your local surroundings. You can build community. Like, is your
Mm-hmm.
cul-de-sac in order? Do you guys have an emergency plan? Okay, figure that shit out. Then zoom out a little bit. Like, all like like get your localism is really coming back to the fore as we watch our national institutions and centralized authority really start to crumble and fall. And finding out that like the lights are on but nobody's home. Like, I
Right.
used to laugh at the idea that Joe Biden is a clone body, like a clone manifestation of a guy who used to exist. I gotta say, I think like especially the earlobe thing is so weird to me, but it really does make one wonder. Like, do we just have vapid, crumbling, literal clones in front of us, and we're all like, so who's in charge? And it's just like fucking no one. You are, people on the ground, and we have certain people who've like sold their soul, joined the Red Shoe Club, if you
Mm-hmm.
catch my drift, and
Mm-hmm.
they're all like they all feel really inspired to go build a bunker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so, and it makes me wonder because it's all coming to a head as the let me pull this up, as that total eclipse seems to be coming forth. And
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of pull this up because this is coming up April 8th. I recall you and I in 2017. Did we know each other at the time?
Yeah.
August
Yeah.
2017?
Or that was like the same time right when we met. So I think we met that month, bro.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah. I think we
are you shitting your clit?
I seriously think we met that month. It was like
Shut your
it
fucking
was like the
face.
middle of 2017 where we met. It was before I started that apprenticeship. So it was
Mhm.
like June, July where we started talking on the internet. But we didn't have our first meetup where we met up for lunch in Portland until like September, I think.
Okay, it may have been about the time because yeah, we were more digital friends,
Yeah,
and then we
yeah,
are like, dude, let's hang out, bro, let's hang out.
yeah.
Because I added you on Facebook because I was like, oh, he lives in Astoria. You had it listed Astoria at the time.
Hmm.
I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, like on the Galactic kind of Federation thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
when the Path of Totality came through here in August 2017, we were in the Portland, Oregon area. I'm putting my cursor up, but people can't see my cursor. What am I doing? It's not Zoom. Um, just imagine that I have a cursor saying we're in the Portland, Oregon area. Um, and um, and the path of totality was close, but it wasn't totally there. And then we let that happen. 7 years have gone by, and we're coming up to that 7 year kind of culmination. Actually, not quite 7 years. Who else was in Oregon? That was quick.
Jace.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys,
I
yeah, you
I
guys
just
were.
learned how to put comments up. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Go for it. Like, pull them up. This is what I love about the live chat. We should incorporate. Trump made animal cruelty a felony. I will always thank him for that. Something else I'll give him credit for because I am conditioned to like hate the dude. Um, and sometimes I'm like, he lost opportunities that drive me crazy. Like free Assange, that's such a gimme, dude. Like just
Hmm.
fucking be a bot. Like, and then when he was like, well, let's pull out of Syria, I'm like, do it, dude. He didn't start any wars. I was like, yeah, cool. But I
Hmm.
did like that. Like Kim Kardashian comes to the Oval Office and is like, can we do something about like black people who've been incarcerated on trumped up charges? Trump, like just really, like they're in for 30 years because they stole $100 coat from Burlington Coat Factory or something. And so he who's getting people free and out of jail? Trump. Who's
Hmm.
helping mitigate the migrant crisis at the border, which I used to be like, why are you building a wall? That's just so stupid. But I didn't know we were actively like literally flying people in. It's goofy. And then, Trump. So like I would hope he'd surround himself with a tribe of people who really wish for his success and not some certain cronies. I think there's some weirdos like Roger Stone. I'm just like, what an idiot. Like, fuck off, dude. Okay, no, those God, like Trump like just takes over even their
I
solar
know. I
eclipse
know.
chat. But I did want to point out this is something that struck me as really interesting. I don't necessarily think this specific expression is super nefarious, but it is kind of interesting to note that this the time difference as we track time, the Gregorian calendar, which is a little fucked up in a lot of ways. The 2024 eclipse compared to the 2017 eclipse, it occurs 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days in distance. So you got like 4 sixes there, as given how we track time. And I thought, I'm like, that is really like interesting. You'll see that the way the total eclipse crosses. And when we say total eclipse, it's lunar object sun, lunar object Earth. So instead of us obscuring the moon obscures us.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
have to kind of differentiate that as we come into a double eclipse season. But I thought this was kind of interesting that we get these like almost like Easter egg clues. It's hard to get certain people to indulge astrology and say astrological transits are real when Jupiter's in this house. This it kind of means this in the collective. People have a really hard time with that. But when you really look at this, you got to think like, dude, we're in a simulation of some sort. We are manifesting beings, being funneled in weird and bad ways, but we are manifesting beings, and we're just kind of creating this illusion. This is kind of wild.
Yeah. 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 I've listened to a few different people that really dove deep. Like you can tell they've spent hours and hours, probably days in research about these eclipses. And you guys all know I'm an astrologer, so I can give you the astrology and tell you, what that means astrologically. But going into these other realms that other people are picking up, like how many years and months and days and all this sort of stuff. I don't have the time, energy, or desire to dive too deep into that. So I do appreciate people that do, so I can listen to, someone for 2 hours talking, about all the research that they've done. And here's one of the but however, like if this was years ago, then I'd be one of those people that's like fucking balls deep in studying all of this stuff. But something that I've really learned over the years, especially as an astrologer, when I give readings to people that have no idea about astrology or no idea about their chart, those people, without having that knowledge, live so well in alignment and in accordance to how their chart is already mapped out. So that has like opened me up to this awareness that we don't always need to know
Yeah.
all of the things that there is a divine intelligence that works through us, and we all have our own map that is embedded in our auric field, embedded in our life force and our soul and our spirit. And whether you have the awareness of knowledge and tools or not, you're still going to be living in alignment to your vibrational frequency, your vibrational truth. So since I've like, and it's taken me a long time to like have to see it in this way. And since I've been able to see it in that way, it's helped me relax my anus a whole lot more
Hmm.
than, because because when all this stuff started popping off, I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening with Q? What's happening with this? What's happening with that? I need to know. I need to know. I need to know. And it's too much to grasp. And it's it's not like, the more we are living like that, the less we are living through our own divine intelligence system. And so this is why I say that, because when we are obsessed and balls deep in rabbit holes and trying to grab all this information, what happens is we are hyper engaged in the analytical critical mind, which means we are less engaged with the intuitive subconscious mind.
Hmm.
So what happens is we get so overloaded with all different bits of information that the analytical mind is trying to piece together and understand, that we are forgetting how to see it through the divine, how to connect it with the divine. And so and then the overwhelm can cause confusion on how to navigate it or what to trust is real and true. So
True.
over the last few years, since I started like I've given hundreds, thousands of chart readings. And when I give those readings to those people who don't have a single clue about astrology or their chart, and I'm telling them what their chart means, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I already live it." That's wow. So going back to this eclipse and all the prophecies that are being shared about this, for me, I find it very interesting, and I do appreciate and enjoy all the data and information that people are uncovering and connecting the pieces to it. However, for me, I choose to not overwhelm my analytical mind with all that information, because it can take me away from the divine, and confuse my mind on what's actually happening. So lately I've been consciously choosing to not um, always be so nose deep in all of the different things going on. I'll listen to it, so I just wanted to say that piece there.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that. And what's great about, I think, this new paradigm emerging of independent media and individual thought leaders is everybody is coming to the fore. Everybody's coming to the fore with their specific, like, what they can do, like a little niche. Like I found with like Mormons and ritual abuse and trauma programming, like that was like a weird niche I was kind of coming to the fore with like a little support group tribe was coming together, and I was kind of like part of that underground. I don't believe I was an experiencer of that, but I was adjacent. And you're just sort of like, wow, this is a very specific niche, but and I'm kind of like, this is my little niche, right? And what's great about this, like as we break away from centralized authority and this top down, like here's one talking point and it goes to the three major news, you know,
Hmm.
cable news things, and then everybody has it on while they're doing dishes, and then they parrot those, trickle down, trickle down. We have these moments such as what I have here on the screen where somebody on Reddit put two and two together and was like, we have this path of totality coming up. And then, wow, all of a sudden, a rash of lightning strikes perfectly mirroring the path of totality.
Yeah.
Like, what is, hey, rabbit hole. And I think people in this new paradigm, they'll feel called upon, where it's like, not every, and this is something, and I'm really grateful that you brought up your perspective, right? Where like, not every rabbit hole is your rabbit hole. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, so it's someone's niche. Some meteorological person with a
Yeah.
cosmic bent is going to look at this and go, does it line up with a ley line? Does it this and that? And I think that's what's happening as we bring leadership and sovereignty from that upper level, and we're like, what do you want, master, to like this local level where we're like,
Hmm.
what's your piece of the puzzle, what's your piece of the puzzle, click click click, damn, like here's a big view, and we all
Hmm.
are sort of adding to it, and we all have, because we are one consciousness, we are source consciousness, but we are individuated fragments of source consciousness, and that's how
Yeah.
source experiences novelty and newness, because
Yeah.
when we are just all one, source cannot tell a joke to itself because it
Right.
wrote
Right.
the joke, and it
Right.
and it oops, source wrote the joke. So source thought of the joke, wrote the joke, told the joke, heard the joke. So source knows the punchline before it is spoken. So a
Hmm.
joke doesn't work. Does that
Hmm.
does that make sense? Like, to
Yeah.
source consciousness, you can't source consciousness cannot experience a joke because it's too much oneness, which is exhilarating. It's great. It's like, oh, but so I think consciousness dives between these states of individuation, like going to a movie, right? Like it's like experiencing an incarnation and shit's happening and it's living a life, and then it logs out and it's part of oneness, like, oh, and then it comes back into individuation in some form. And right
Hmm.
now, Earth is like, I think, the biggest movie in the cosmos. Like
Yeah.
it's undergoing the biggest, greatest liberation. It's the North Korea of the cosmos, and
Right.
it's breaking out, and all of a sudden we're going to get our cell phones again, like we're North Koreans and we can't like fathom technology or first world living or this or that,
Hmm.
like, to
Hmm.
use a metaphor.
Yeah. Well, I love that metaphor you gave about, Saurus and the joke and wrote everything, because that's very Aquarian of you, Alex is an Aquarius in astrology, and he's also a reflector in human design. And being a reflector in human design, that's like the most rarest type of person on the planet. And Aquarius, if this whole matrix is a game and a simulation, well, Aquarius is the one who fucking coded the game. And so,
Oh.
and like, in the movie, the movie, the Matrix series, the point where Neo finally arrives to where the architect is, and the architect is sitting in the chair, and he's like, everything's a program. You're a program. The Oracle's a program. I wrote all of this, and he's just like has all the TVs. That architect, that's the archetype of Aquarius. So I love that when you give examples, they're like really big examples that maybe would go over people's heads or not realize that like we really are in this simulated matrix, that source is creating. And anyways, go ahead.
Well, thank you for that, because I do think sometimes when phrased just the right way with just the right metaphor, it really shifts your perspective, it shifts your actions, it shifts your shit. I noticed a few years ago, Elon Musk was talking about like simulation, and his perspective of a simulation was there was a ancient culture, it created a simulation and it left it running and it's unattended. And so they're long dead. And I'm like, why? Like, if you're going to look at it like a simulation, why are you looking at it in such a weirdly disempowered way? Like, you're on a computer in a server and like the lights are on and nobody's home. And I'm like, that sounds like a horrible Black Mirror episode. That doesn't sound like
right. But in a way, it kind of makes
existence.
sense. Like it there's like a faint resonance to that, because how many people leave their computers on and never turn them off? And
Yeah.
how many people keep a video game program running on their computer and never turn it off? Like, I mean, like I don't know. That's a silly human connection to it. But anyways, not.
No, that silly human connection. I think everything that's true on the microscopic is true in the macroscopic as well. Like everything from the biggest celestial body down to the tiniest little atom, like just is kind of adheres to the same or similar principles for the most part. Like there is a divine harmony in all of it. I will say sometimes when we think of the ancient thing, my take is that we are consciousness from the future. That's a very linear way of looking at things and not exactly true, but it is like we're from the future. We've seen how the timeline plays out, and we are, I don't mean to say an artificial insertion, because we are not artificial, but we're sort of an unexpected insertion into the timeline to just steer it maybe upward, right? And so instead of like, well, destroy the planet, it didn't really work, we're like, oh no, it's salvageable. It just requires a little like ding, 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 ding. And then now you have this like beautiful golden age of humanity.
Yeah.
You tell the cabal to fuck the fuck off, and life's pretty fucking good. And I think you and I and those watching this tiny little club are agents in that way. Like we went back in time, and it would just be like from our eyes, we're like, let's change the Kennedy assassination. We all go back to 1963 and like do things in Dallas to steer the timeline. I think that's similar, but on a much grander scale.
Right. I resonate with that. So going back to the eclipses that are coming up, so I said what I said about like overloading the critical mind, the analytical mind with all these different things and whatnot. But I want to share some of the bits and pieces that I have come across with these eclipses, because so first off, I knew that we were going to have these 3 eclipse intersecting points years ago, because I'm an astrologer, so I've come across a website that calculates and maps eclipses from like 100 years in the past, 100 years in the future. And when I was reading on this website, it activated for me to download some ancient cosmic knowledge about eclipses and time travel and consciousness and portals. And when I saw the map of the US, because this was shortly after the 2017 eclipse. And I'm like, okay, and I'm looking at the map and I'm like, oh shit, there's going to be another one. Oh my gosh, and there's another one, and they're intersecting here. So without diving deep into the research, I dove deep into a download and a remembrance of ancient technology. And I want to give a huge shout out and a massive thank you to astrologer Molly McCord. She is
Okay.
an amazing astrologer. She has been doing astrology for like, 20, 25, maybe 30 years. And a few weeks ago, she on her podcast, she gave a channeling that wasn't so much about astrology, but it was astrology related. She gave a channeling where she was her guides were helping her communicate with these like really ancient priests, an Incan priest, a Mayan, and an Aztec priest, and they were telling her about time travel technology through eclipses. And if you've been listening to my channel long enough, you have heard me speak bits and pieces here and there. I haven't shared it that much, but this is the download of ancient memory technology that I started to receive when I first became aware of this eclipse stuff going on. So you're not going to see it written down anywhere. You might not hear anybody else talk about it. The only other person that I've heard talk exactly and what I downloaded was Molly McCord, and she got the message this year when I got the message years ago and kept it very private. So the way I started to remember it, and this would come in like visions and feelings and downloads. So this is how it is. So imagine yourself back in ancient times. Like let's just pick the Hopi people, the Hopi tribe, and you're dressed and you're getting ready for ceremony because the big eclipse is happening. And so we're dressing in our kachina outfits. We're wearing the headdress, we're wearing, the outfits, and everybody has selectively chosen the character that in the costume you're going to wear for the ceremony. And the ceremony is a dancing ceremony of music that is played continuously for days, 24 hours around the clock, day and night, day and night. And there is a special concoction made. Maybe it's peyote, maybe it's ayahuasca, but there's a special concoction that is made that everybody drinks. Well, not everybody, not everybody. There are selected warriors that get chosen to perform in certain dancing sequences during this. And so the warriors back then were not just fighting strong warriors. These were warriors that were trained in how to master their mind and their heart, because they had to have strong heart and strong mind to be a warrior when transcending out of the physical reality and traveling through the multiverse, time traveling. Because when you do that, you lose your identity, you lose your sense of self, and you become like source, moving and traveling. And so it's very easy to lose yourself when traveling. So the warriors that are selected to time travel through consciousness it's very, it's like a rigorous training. Not everybody gets to do this. Only the strongest of the strongest get to do this. And and you can see the similarities in what I'm talking about also in Africa with the Dogon tribes and how they have their rituals and their masks and their dancing. So the body is a technology that mirrors the universe. Okay. The body is a technology that mirrors the universe. And we get into a trance, and maybe we take some type of mind altering natural plant medicine that spirit guided us in how to make. And the whole tribe, the whole village is there drumming, making the music, and because we're getting in, everybody's collectively dropping deeper and deeper and deeper into a trance state to hold the space for the warriors to dance. And so then what happens, the reason why you wear the masks, the reason that I understand why we wore the mask, and I say we because when I got activated into downloading this this ancient memory technology, what started happening to me is I was getting glimpses of my mind being back then wearing the clothes and wearing a mask and dancing and moving and playing. And so what happens is after you're dancing and doing that for, let's say, 3 days in a row, eventually what happens is something else takes over your body, and your body is still moving and still dancing and awake and out there, and it's not getting tired, it's not aging, it's not hurting. There's a divine connection that's happening. And then through the movement, it allows your mind to, because then what happens is then the eclipse starts to happen, the solar eclipse starts to happen. And during that window period, however long it lasts, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, during that time, you transcend, your consciousness transcends and enters through that solar gateway portal to time travel. And maybe you know exactly where you're going to go, maybe you don't, but that's why only the strongest warriors that have mastered the psychology of their mind and their heart are able to do this, or else they'll get lost. They'll get lost out there. And so I started to have multi-locational remembrance of being in the mask. And so when you're dancing, you're seeing different aspects of, well, this is what happened to me. I saw different aspects of my spirit and soul in different timelines. And that's why in, that portrait that I share all the time, there are those different masks, because ancient tribes throughout the whole world had this was common knowledge, just like how in ancient Atlantis, chakras and meditating and levitating was like not really that special. Everyone can do it, so you know so I got this download like somewhere between 2017 2018, and over the years, like out of nowhere, I didn't have control of it. Out of nowhere, I would suddenly be back in that ancient time, which is why I know that I am a Kachina warrior, and which is how I know that I'm Heyoka, that my medicine is Heyoka, So yes, I'm a Bodhisattva, I'm Blu-ray, I'm Kachina, all these things. And that's, and those times and those ancient dances is how I got to see the future, and this is how I believe the Hopi prophecy was able to be translated, was through this ability to remote view and travel through eclipse portals and start seeing the future and come together with this prophecy. I believe that that's how it was downloaded, um, of the bird tribes and all these sorts of things. So what I believe, so this is what Mario is going to be doing during the eclipse. I'm going to be dancing. I'm going to be going to ceremony. I'm going to be preparing, now until then, by adjusting my diet, changing my substances, changing. I'm not going to be scrolling on Facebook or Instagram and paying attention to every stupid fucking thing that's going on. No Kate Middleton, no Illuminati stuff, no fucking nothing, because and this is what I'm talking about when we are continuously diving deep into this rabbit holes, is our critical analytical mind becomes so fucking overloaded that we're not connecting to the divinity that we're able to access through the subconscious mind. And also what happens is that our ego, when we are so balls deep in all the information, our ego attributes human characteristics where we project and mirror things within our own self with the information. So people are projecting and reiterating and changing all the things and attributing and creating a whole story that just moves further and further and further away from the original divine template, blueprint template, because we are humans and we're not supposed to be able to really grasp it. Just like how I was saying, when I read people's charts that don't have a single clue about astrology, and without them knowing astrology, they live divinely in alignment with what that blueprint is. And that's what we all do here as well. So for me, I think it's important to understand how to balance the fact that yes, there is a lot of things going on with this eclipse. Like the 2017 eclipse, when that 2017 eclipse, it passed through like 7 or 8 towns across America Salem. It passed through like 7 or 8 cities named Salem in America, which is, related to ancient biblical terms.
Yeah.
This eclipse is going to be passing through 7 or 8 towns called Nineveh, which is another ancient biblical thing. So, and it's intersecting with the 23 eclipse on the border and the 2017 eclipse in Little Egypt, Illinois. So, yes, there is a lot of prophetic divine things. But my point is I don't think the human logical analytical mind is ever going to really know what the fuck it is. It's so much more expansive than we have to experience it. And what and the type of information that you are inputting and digesting right now that are trying to paint a narrative or project some kind of idea of what all of this means, you want to be very careful because you can miss that gateway. You can miss that gateway of what the original divine blueprint template is. Some people are going to say, "Oh, this is the Antichrist is coming through, blah blah blah. Don't look at the solar eclipse or blah 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 unless you detox all the heavy metals in your body, blah 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 blah." Where are they getting that from? Those extra things are coming from the overload in the analytical mind where they're not connecting to the divine. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, or a cessation of individual sovereignty or power because you're taking on someone else's external narrative as your own. This is the truth. I read it on this news feed, and so it is. And then we are manifesting beings. So then you, in a sense, you are creating that imprint. You're like, well, I mean, I guess if you are saying that, then so it is. It's like people with negative self-talk. They're like, I'm not worth anything. It's like, I don't know why you'd say that, but
Yeah.
you're manifesting being, words create form. Here's that
Mm-hmm.
reality you've just,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to nix what I don't mean what I just said. I always go to a falsetto to be like, it's not my voice, it's like a different voice, because
Right.
don't imprint that on my reality. But it's
No.
very great what you're bringing up. It's like this is a great opportunity to like retreat into kind of oneself, reclaim one's sovereignty, cut out the fat, right? Like, there's a diet of body, what are you putting into your tum tum? And then there's a diet of mind
Mm-hmm.
and a diet of
Mm-hmm.
spirit, right? And it's not so much like go hide, don't be part of anything. I do think it will be helpful when our neighbors all kind of run out and they're just like, what the fuck? And you kind of have to be like, calm down.
Mm-hmm.
You're good. You're still here. We're still here. The houses on the cul-de-sac are still here. Yeah, money fell, or the fake economy, disappeared like a fart. No, don't take on digital currency and shit like
Mm-hmm.
that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we will be called upon to be thought leaders very quickly. I think it's like, get the fuck ready. Like, it's already happening in the now. I'm
Yeah.
noticing that.
Yeah.
And may I say, in relation to your kind of Hopi thing, I don't know if I ever told you this, but in 2017 or thereabouts, I can't tell if it was before or after the eclipse. One morning, remember my condo on the waterfront attached to that hotel?
Yep.
I'm getting ready for work. I have my little tie on. My partner's already gone. I'm going to walk down the Portland River to my office, right? So I'm about to leave, and I hear this like rhythmic drum beat behind me. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, the fuck? So I turn around and it's behind me. And I'm like, okay. So I go into the next room. We have these speakers, right? Like Alexas, like those fucking,
Yeah.
I'm Jeff Bezos hears every time I fart. And like we have them in every fucking room. And so I'm like, which Alexa is like playing this rhythmic drum beat? And I felt pressed against something with my face, kind of like this is a screen, and I'm pressed against it. And there's like a dum 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 rhythmic dancey drum beat behind
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And no
Yeah.
matter where I went, like I could turn
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and then I'm just like, the fuck is that? And it was too weird for me, and I just like left the house. I'm like, okay, I don't think any speaker is playing. I'm having a moment right now that I can't divine. So it's kind of
Dude.
funny. I'm like,
Dude,
maybe,
that's how it was for me. That's how I was experiencing those multi-locational moments where the download of that information was coming from. It was just like that, where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in a mask,
in a mask. Yeah, I was just pressed. Yeah.
and hearing the music. So So in 2022, it was 2022. I was in Sedona, Arizona. It was like September 2022, and I was selling salsa at a conference out there in Sedona, that of speakers talking about health and wellness and science and like how to combat this whole COVID agenda and the vaccines. And one of the speakers there is the how do you properly say it? The late when someone died, the
Yeah,
late
you would say that,
the
like the late so and so.
the late Clifford Mahudi, who is an indigenous storyteller and wisdom keeper from the Zuni tribe, the Zuni Nation tribe, which is also connected to that whole New Mexico Hopi indigenous realm. And this would have been like the second or third time I crossed paths with him. The first time I crossed paths with him was Dimensions of Disclosure 2019, and this dude came up to me and put his hand on my back and like did something, and then walked away. And I was like, I don't know who that guy is, but whatever he just did was good. So, anyways, 2020, like September 2020, I crossed paths with him, and I'm like, hey, Clifford, like, I've been like, over the past few years, I've been having these experiences where like suddenly I'm like dancing and I'm wearing a mask, and like I feel like there's aspects of me that are time traveling. And so this was when I first heard and understood the word Kachina. I didn't really know much about Kachinas and the Kachina prophecy. I knew about the Hopi prophecy, but I didn't know the Kachina aspect of it until this point. And he's like, "Oh, you're a Kachina warrior." I was like, Kachina warrior, what's that? And he's like, oh, he told me some things about the Kachina warriors and what they're here for and what they do. Basically, he was confirming and validating my theories up until that point of time traveling and being a warrior through dance and ceremony. And I told him, I was like, I don't understand. Like, I've been hit by cars, I had a stroke, I had brain tumors, and blah 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 blah. And so one of the things that he was saying is like, listen, most of those things you've gone through were not because of some evil government conspiracy trying to kill you. A lot of the things you've been through was actually done by your star family to mold you into a double-edged sword. And he's like, imagine the strongest Japanese samurai sword ever. What do? You fucking melt that steel and you fold it and you hammer it and you hammer it and you fold it again and you hammer it and you hammer it. And he's like, that's what your star family has been doing for you to prepare you for the person you're supposed to become it coming into the future, which you need to be a double-edged sword for the people, you know? And as he's talking to me and telling me this, I feel the both of us like in this energetic container, and like tears are just rolling down my eyes because I feel something happening. And I can feel that he knows so much more, not just about me, but about the whole big picture than I know. And in that moment, I just felt peace and pure alignment and trust in myself and in the universe. And then he called over this other woman, which I kick myself in the ass every time I remember this for not getting her fucking number, her name, her email, her contact. But he was like, hey, come here, blah, blah, blah. And she comes, and she's like an older white woman, like in her 50s or 60s.
Mhm.
And Mahudi is like, we have another Kachina warrior. And she looks at me and she's like, okay. And Clifford tells me, is like, this woman, she goes and she takes other Kachina warriors out into the tabletop mountains in the desert, and they stay out there overnight in ceremony, and they merge with ancient Kachina warriors. And dude, she pulls out her cell phone and starts showing me pictures that they take late in the dark, where you can see them standing in the dark, and then
Mhm.
at the same time you can see a transparent ancient indigenous fucking person overlaid over that body.
Oh wow.
Bro, I had full fucking chills. And she's like, yeah, that's who we are. We really are these Kachina warriors, and we're time travelers. And I'm like, oh man, so it's fucking real. Like, what I've been experiencing is real. And I kick myself in the fucking ass for like not getting her number or contact. And then, unfortunately, but it was his time. Clifford Mahudi passed on into the next life, and I don't even remember how that woman looks like, what her name was, but um,
She'll
yeah.
resurface. I mean, if she surfaced on accident that one time, she'll resurface on accident yet again. So I would not worry about that. But you know what? She's probably going to stumble upon you and be like, "Oh yeah, I kind of remember that guy," which I
Hope
think
so.
would be really funny.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But the one thing that everything has taught me over all these years and all these experiences is like, don't trip, don't worry,
Don't
don't
trip.
freak out. You didn't miss out on anything. Yeah, I regret not getting her contact information, but we are in alignment. We're exactly where we need to be. We're doing what we need to be. Yes, maybe sometimes we miss a bus, right? We miss a bus to take us to some place that would have helped us or whatever, but we're never really failing or missing out entirely. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's okay. Like, trust where you are. Don't beat yourself up for missing out on opportunities or being late to the party or whatever. Like, we are all exactly where we need to be right now. And going back to what you were saying, your local environment, and then also going back to what I was saying, way earlier in the show about Trump and when he started running for presidency. And at that point, I was like, fuck Trump. And I started a whole career in the nonprofit realm as a community organizer. And
Hmm.
then eventually, as a community organizer, I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm a mindless bot out here that's just regurgitating narrative. You know what I mean? Let me pull back and, like, reconnect with source, reconnect with, because that's who I am, you
Yeah.
know, and I used to tell people when I was a community organizer, I was like, listen, I'm a hippie from the forest and the mountains that's just trying to come down and figure out what's going on. I really don't know anything, because all of my colleagues were college educated graduate people. You know what I mean? And so I was like the least educated person. And because I felt like I needed to compensate and prove to myself that I am allowed to be here, I enmeshed myself in all of the left brain over analytical detailed information of bullshit. And with that being said, um, we have gone way far over our time. This was a very electrifying conversation. Hate to leave you guys on a cliff, but I'm notorious for that. Alex and I are notorious for just stopping before we bust, and that's how it's gonna be.
Well, I mean, it's why we come to you twice weekly, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
people are really getting into these, like we're coming together, we got our coffee, and we're just talking this shit out. So, ooh, says Felicia, in Arkansas, we are experiencing the eclipse path, billions of cicadas hatching and monarch butterfly migrations, very rare events. It's like great confluence. I love that we're all sharing notes, right? Like, is any one person gonna have all the notes? No. But that is
Mhm.
so amazing to just watch this beautiful co-creative space just like really come alive with this. And also
Yeah.
hearing like the National Guard is gonna show up, in certain places on the path of totality. And it's like, fuck you guys, we're in charge. And they're in charge too, you little soldiers. So anyway, on
Mhm.
that note, we gotta go. We will be back, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, next Tuesday, 11:30
Yeah.
a.m. Eastern. And we always set our live streams about a day before. So mark your calendars, pull up with your tea. Blessings, love and light. What is it you say? Love and light, death and darkness.
Love and
Full
light, death and darkness, full spectrum. And next week, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but next week we are likely going to have a special guest.
Oh, awesome.
Of her name is Kim. Don't know her last name. Her name is Kim, but
Mhm.
she is a super soldier veteran that has access to a lot of memories and a remote viewer. I've worked with her personally and uncovering aspects of my own journey. So we're hoping to have her be on our show for next Tuesday. So definitely come on in, meet Kim, and yeah. So that's it for now. And thank you, everybody.
Hell yeah. Peace.